I mean, what's Ireland's position? You spoke for a long time, but you didn't say what Ireland's position is. Does Ireland support extending the TRIPS waiver to diagnostics, other technology other than vaccines, or does it not? Does it stand with the poorest people in the world who want to get access to the technology to be able to test for, so on, COVID, or does it stand with the big pharmaceutical companies who want to keep a monopoly on those technologies in order to maximise their profits? Where does Ireland stand? That's very, very important to know, because what's being reported is that the obstructive position in the talks is being taken by the EU, the UK, Canada and Japan, who are seeking to delay progress in relation to that. And obviously Ireland is part of the EU. But what's Ireland's position? Does the Irish government support extending the TRIPS waiver to diagnostics and therapeutics, or does it not?
Thank you very much. I'd like that question answered, and it's very specific. I've had the advantage over Deputy Murphy, but of just reading it. And I must say, you're not dealing with the question in relation to what is Ireland's position. The decision that was agreed in June falls far short of what was asked by countries led by India and other countries in October 2020. And they asked for a lot more. Here we are now. In the beginning, there might have been some excuse, although I don't think there was, but we were reacting and reacting. Now there's been a time for reflection. So is our voice being heard at EU level to say this has to be extended in a fair manner to diagnostics and tests and treatments? Is that happening, Minister? Where is our voice? You continuously tell us that trade is a EU competency. We know that. We don't need to be keep telling us that. This is a health matter. This is about human beings, about justice, equality and fairness. So where is our voice at EU level in relation to that?
Thanks, Chair. Again, I suppose it's probably fair to say that the ministerial decision was the outcome of extensive and detailed and politically sensitive negotiations, which we've discussed here quite a lot over the last year. And Ireland has always taken a very prominent position on that within the EU. They hold the competency for this, and we do contribute to that. Our officials are involved in Dublin and Brussels and Geneva in a round of negotiations since that meeting over at this stage nearly 4.5 months ago, in preparing for the next round, which is on December the 17th, and we're feeding into that. The EU is in the process of engaging with various stakeholders, conducting internal consultations and analysing available information to gain an understanding, and we're feeding into that as well. We've always had the view, and we're very clear from an Irish point of view, that we had to find the best way to get access to what was on offer, while protecting the IP as well, because I know we differ on that, Deputy Murphy, but we do believe that you have to protect an IP regime to encourage more and more people to invest in that and to invest in future medicines and future therapeutics and health services as well, because if you don't have that regime right, you lose out on that investment and everyone suffers, developing countries or not. And so we have been feeding in to try to find the best way. We did always make it clear here that the opportunity to manufacture and access the infrastructure on the ground was important too, and I do think we've made a lot of progress since the last talks, and the conversation has moved on now. And that part of it is where the EU are involved in. They are politically sensitive, and they're involved in a lot of countries. But the EU have been one of the leaders in this so far, and we've made some progress since the last talks as well. So I'll be able to update you after December meeting, if that's. I'm afraid, Chair, that's as far as we can go for today.
Deputy Murphy.
No, that's not acceptable, Minister. We're asking a question now. Your answer repeatedly was to say we're feeding in to find the best way. I have no idea what that means. Is Ireland at European Council level pushing for the EU to support the extension of the waiver, or is it not? We have the right to know what position the Irish government is taking, and you don't have the right to come in here, you certainly shouldn't, and just talk nonsense and not say anything. If you say, and you say you support the intellectual property, if that's your position, if the government's position is the right of the companies to profit and the right of Ireland to get a small amount of corporation tax should come before the lives of millions of people, fine. Come and argue that position and let's have a debate about it. But to hide Ireland's position in the language of we're feeding in to try to find the best way is really quite craven. You come out and say what the Irish government position is. If the Irish government supports the extension of the waiver, great. Clearly that's what I think we should be doing. But I think it is really not acceptable to refuse to answer the question. The negotiations are happening now. Like you said, this has to be done by the 17th of December. I think it'll be scandalous if the Irish government stands with the pharmaceutical companies and not billions of people around the world.
Deputy Connolly.
Thank you, Minister. I'd love to hear the voice of the Taoiseach really on this, because we need leadership in relation to this. I understand that you're in possession of a letter from over 18 NGOs, including the Irish Council for Civil Liberties, and they've pointed out to you that less than 20% of people in the poorest countries are fully vaccinated. At the same time, high-income countries are currently account for 75% of total known supply details of all existing therapeutics. Within a minute, one can't read this out, but they're deeply disappointed that on the 17th of June, the WTO TRIPS decision endorsed by the Irish government was not comprehensive. So we're talking here about health. We're talking about there's no point in making Ireland safe if other countries aren't safe. And if we endorse a system that enriched a small number of pharmaceutical companies beyond belief on public money, and we did that, let's learn from that now. Let's stop praising the wonderful pharmaceutical companies that did this on public money. Maybe at some point you might tell us how much public money went into that, and you might tell us how many vaccine doses we've given into COVAX and so on. I don't expect you to have those answers, but we're constantly trying to get information. At this point, I'm just asking for leadership to let our voice be heard. I think I'm over time. Sorry.
Thanks, Chair. I do have that letter that was addressed to the Taoiseach as well from those individuals, again outlining the concerns. And we have to reflect on what progress has been made already since we were discussing this, which was the access to the vaccine. That it was a discussion that many people were raising here before. So the ministerial decision on the TRIPS agreement provides for a waiver of certain obligations of the TRIPS agreement and includes clarifications that will allow eligible WTO members to authorise a company to manufacture and export COVID-19 vaccines in a fast and simplified manner and without the consent of the patent owner. There's been major changes here. Developing countries will be able to use the solution to authorise the manufacture, import or export of COVID-19 vaccines without prior negotiation with the patent owner and without any notification requirements that would delay the start of the manufactures or export. Equally important is the clarification that the remuneration for patent owners may take account of humanitarian or not-for-profit purpose of production and hence support the production and supply of COVID-19 vaccines at affordable prices for those in need. The decision that has been made already will simplify to the maximum the process to export vaccines and their ingredients to other developing countries. This includes waiving of various prior notifications, packaging or labelling requirements. It will also enable developing countries to scale up their production capacity and supply vaccines to other eligible members. It will also support the establishment of manufacturing hubs that rely on the supply chains in multiple countries, facilitating, for instance, the establishment to fill and finish capacities in several countries. The outcome maintains the protection of IP as opposed to waiving IP rights, a key element for developing countries not only to benefit from the innovation that the system sustains, but also to have the environment that incentivises investments that the international community should make to boost capacity and diversification, the production of vaccines and pharmaceutical products more broadly throughout the world. And I've argued here before, the successful production of new vaccines and new medicines involves public money and private money. And it is fair to say there was a lot of extra public money put on top of billions of private money in relation to COVID. There's no doubt about that. But there was an investment of private money well before that as well. We have to make sure the IP regime protects both those investments and enhances the best opportunity as well. We believe Ireland's role in our negotiations through the EU in the trade talks has assisted with these changes, and we'll continue to do that, take that approach in the next couple of months up to December 17th. They are negotiations. We're part of negotiations. Through the EU at a WTO that involves 150 plus countries. So except I can't go into every little detail you want me to do here, but we recognise
public, private and profit.
It's how do you best maximise money for research. And trust me, I don't have all the figures here today, but I think the private end of that is probably higher than the public end. Let's be fair about that for a long number of years. And it's important that we maximise the opportunity there. We differ here on the need to have a blend of public and private money in research. To me, it's how do you maximise the impact from expenditure, and that's by combining the two in many ways. And that's not an approach shared by Deputy Murphy. Deputy Connolly, I'm not sure your approach, but I know Deputy Murphy, he believes it should be all just taxpayers' money. I believe that misses out on opportunities that we have to build on as well.